There's something interesting happening in the cozy game space right now. A lot of games in this genre are starting to feel familiar. Cozy, yes, but familiar. You kind of know what you're getting before you even start playing. And then there's Petit Planet, a game that, at least from what I've seen, feels like it's trying to introduce ideas that go a bit further than what I'm used to in cozy games. I want to be clear up front, I haven't played every cozy game out there. My main experience is with Animal Crossing, which I think is a pretty good common reference point for a lot of people anyway. But even with just that, Petit Planet stands out to me for one main reason. It seems to care a lot more about friendships. Before we get into this video, I want to set expectations really clearly. This is going to be a breakdown of the unique features in Petit Planet, ones that stood out to me during the beta test. I won't be going over a lot of the common cozy game systems because honestly, a lot of other creators are already covering those. I want to get into those more in depth when the game is released. Instead, I want to focus on what actually feels different here. What makes this game stand out compared to the other cozy games I've played? Also, just to be clear, this is all based on the beta test version of the game, so things can still change in the final release. Nothing here represents the final product. Also, I played the game with the iPhone 17, that is what was assigned to me, so the footage quality isn't as clear as PC, but I'll definitely switch to PC when I make more videos in the future. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Let's first talk about the neighbor system. The biggest unique feature in Petit Planet, at least for me, is the neighbor system. And I don't say that lightly because a lot of cozy games have villagers, NPCs, or townspeople. But Petit Planet treats its neighbors in a way that feels much more developed and intentional. If you've played other HoYoverse games before, you might already know how much care they put into character writing. And I was honestly surprised to see that level of attention carried over here. It's not as complex as other HoYoverse games like Genshin Impact, but that's because this is a cozy game. Your neighbors don't just exist on your planet. They feel like actual individuals with their own backgrounds, personalities, and histories. Each one has their backstory, their own likes and dislikes, hobbies, and a bond system that actually evolves over time. An example will be one of my favorite neighbors, Nerina. As you build friendship with her, you don't just get generic dialogue. You actually learn more about who she is, what she enjoys, where she's from, and how she sees the world. Another example would be Medolin. One time I gave her furniture made of metal and she declined it because she didn't want any metal in her house, mostly because of the static she gets from making plushies. As your bond increases with neighbors, new things start to unlock. You get random encounters, mini bond quests, shared activities, and even BFF outfits. And honestly, the mini bond quests are one of my favorite parts so far because they're not just your go here fetch this type of tasks. They actually feel like little character moments, sometimes funny, sometimes unexpected, and sometimes just really weird in a good way. It's those moments that make the characters feel more alive. I won't spoil anything from the story, so I'll leave it here. There's also a surprising amount of interaction depth here. You're not just talking to NPCs, you're actively engaging with them in different ways. There are chatting and daily interactions, going on Starsea exploration together to gather resources, giving and receiving gifts, buying and selling items through negotiation, eating meals together at home, and even taking photos together. You can even choose their poses and reactions. It starts to feel less like talking to NPCs and more like actually spending time with them. I remember when I put on a BFF outfit from Yungo, then I chatted with Isaki, and then Isaki noticed how I'm wearing a BFF outfit from Yungo. They actually react in real time. What I also didn't expect is that each neighbor isn't just cosmetic or narrative, they actually have gameplay utility. For example, Safari can go on different expeditions overnight and bring back items through your mailbox the next day. Medellin can recycle duplicate inspo cards, which are used for crafting, and then turn them into plushies. And Narina can sing by the beach, which helps you catch more sea dwellers because the sea dwellers are attracted to her singing. So they're not just characters you like, they also contribute in different ways to your progression. And finally, they also have their own little personality quirks, which is kind of funny sometimes. Like Medellin being surprisingly gullible when it comes to price negotiation. Sometimes neighbors come up to you and ask if they can buy a certain item from you or sell you furniture. If you're selling Medellin items and you negotiate all the way to the highest amount, you can actually empty out her pocket. Meanwhile, someone like Isaki is more firm and strict with pricing, so you can't really negotiate with him the same way as Medellin. I also sometimes love it when they randomly dance, it's just too cute. It's small stuff like this that really make the game. Another feature that stood out to me is something called Star Notes. This is basically a system where you can write a message and send it out into the universe for other players to discover. And the interesting part here is you're not sending it to friends, you're sending it to strangers. You can also receive Star Notes from other players and reply to them. It creates this sort of soft, almost emotional form of connection with random people in the game. There's something about it that feels very calm and unforced, like you're just leaving small thoughts in space and someone else might find them later. You can receive replies and people can give you fragrance slips, which affect how many Star Notes you can send and read. This next feature honestly surprised me the most. Apparently in Petit Planet, you don't just instantly become friends with someone. There's a full progression system for relationships. When you decide to add someone, you start as acquaintances. At this stage, you can interact, chat, visit their planet, and slowly build familiarity. Over time, if you keep interacting, you can then send a request to move them into your friend list. But here's the key detail. If you don't interact with someone for a while, they can actually fade from your acquaintance list. Which is interesting because it makes relationships feel more intentional, just like how it's supposed to be in real life. There is a way to instantly become friends, but it comes with a cost. So the game is clearly encouraging you to think about relationships instead of just collecting quote-unquote friends and not talking with those friends. It filters out those people you are actually not interested in becoming friends with. Then there's an even deeper layer here, which is the close friends feature. Once you're friends with someone, you can eventually become close friends through continued interaction. This happens through a social hub called the Galactic Bazaar. And once you reach that level, your shared history gets recorded as memories, your name appears at the top of their friend list, and your connection becomes more permanent and visible. Again, this cozy game is about friendships, and after playing the beta test twice now, I've had an amazing experience so far. I've gotten to know other creators and made more online friends. In a world where loneliness is an epidemic, I can definitely see this game being a medium for people to gain friends and even have a best friend. Who knows? Anyway, that's it for this video. There's a lot more I want to talk about, but I'll save that for future videos and wait for the official release of the game. Petit Planet has a lot more going on under the surface than I expected going in, and I think it's worth keeping an eye on. If you're interested in more Petit Planet content, make sure to follow the channel for future tips, guides, design inspiration, and breakdowns. I also post on Instagram and Threads as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!